I'm going to go ahead and hit the record button. Okay. Anytime you're ready for your station ID of DrexelSeymour.com, go.
Okay. This is Drexel Seymour from www.drexelseymour.com. And I'm here with Mr. Jeffrey Smith of Roomware Podcasting.
Perfect. I love it. Good job, sir.
All right.
All right. First try. So good job. Okay. I'm going to hit stop and I'll be right back.
Okay.
Are you ready to thoughtfully steer away from your revved up, frenzied, and far too often scripted life? Then welcome to Vroom Vroom Veer with Jeff Smith, where he guides you down the road differently traveled by sharing unique experiences with guests who have managed to shift away from a life stuck on cruise control and veered their way into a more authentic and fulfilling one in all sorts of interesting and kind of remarkable ways. Get ready to Vroom Vroom Veer with your differently traveled road chauffeur, Jeff Smith.
Tanya Cole-Lesnick, thank you so much for being on Vroom Vroom Veer and welcome to the show. How's it going?
Thank you so much for having me. It's going well. I'm sort of excited to see what unfolds.
Yeah.
And I'm in New York. It's freezing cold here right now.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay.
Went on a hike this morning, so I'm feeling very sort of ready for what's next.
That's great. Hiking and walking is the best way to wake up.
Yeah.
It's so good. I went for a walk this morning and it was cold here in Vegas. And I have this walk that I do and I go up this hill and then I come home and then I have coffee and I'm awake.
Yeah.
Except for the antihistamine, I was awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so thanks for sharing and thanks for being here. So you are at clearenergeticclutter.com. So talk a little bit about what you're most excited about in your business over there today.
Yeah, the thing I'm most excited about today is I'm preparing for this amazing deep reset retreat with a colleague of mine who is another great therapist and coach. And we take women through a transformational weekend in Cold Spring, New York, where we clear limiting beliefs and different things that are in the way for people so that they can really focus on what they want to focus. So it's a real reset and it's going to be a beautiful setting and whatever.
I heard about crackling
together,
fires. I love crackling fires. Yes.
Yes, I do as well. Yeah.
Every retreat should have a sauna, maybe some sort of hot bath. And a crackling fire. That would be my retreat place.
Yes.
There's a place in California, Northern California, called Harbin Hot Springs, one of my favorite places ever. And they do retreats up there, and it's amazing. So read the headlines first because it's a clothing optional situation.
Oh, really? Oh, my gosh.
Yes,
funny.
It's so West Coast.
Yeah. I was about to say, that sounds amazing. I'm like,
a little scary. Yeah, I've done it. It's amazing. Yeah, they it's all very much like I don't know how you say it. It's like spiritual, I guess is the best word, right? So when you're in the clothing optional areas, you're not allowed to like approach people, right? And you shouldn't talk, right?
Yeah.
Right? So if you all interactions are silent, which is really great, because it sort of like takes away all that, high school gym stuff.
Yeah.
And it's just, okay, here we are. We're humans,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you are, let's go back in time because this is Vroom Vroom Veer, right? So we have to go back in time and talk about your story. So where did you grow up?
I grew up in a place called Chevy Chase, Maryland.
Oh, I love Chevy Chase, Maryland. Oh, that's great.
Just outside of Washington, D.C. And I know when I first went to college, people didn't believe that it was really a place, but it was in fact a place. So just very suburban, and a lot of people worked in D.C. A lot of government people lived in that area.
Right. Yeah. A lot of people whenever I go to the DC area, I just think everybody works at the Pentagon. They don't, but most of them do.
But,
most of them do. They go there anyway. Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
So
okay,
it was a nice place to grow up. Yeah.
So what were you doing like as a kid for fun? Were you like running around in the woods, or were you more urban or suburban, or what was it like?
You know, I long for this kind of experience still, just in our world, but I just remember very much riding around on my bicycle with other kids from the neighborhood, going up and down people's driveways that had that little dip, and
I did that.
We played lots of different like Red Rover games.
Like kick the can.
We did a lot of playing with other kids in the neighborhood when I was younger.
Me too.
And that was amazing.
Yeah.
And then as I got older, I was pretty good in sports as a kid. So
nice. Okay. So you were the jock athlete type.
I was.
Okay.
So I did played soccer and ran track as I got older. So those were
great.
my sports. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. So me, not so much.
I mean, now not so much. I mean, I do the hiking, but but I'm less into sports than I was when I was a kid. I kind of miss that.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Yeah. So it's weird how much like what you choose to do sort of like sets you up. It sort of like makes like a big chunk of your personality easier, right? It's sort of like it's your kid job. Okay. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's interesting too when some of that is like such a part of your younger years and then not so much a part of your older years. And you know, I've always done some kind of movement, but team sports is a whole different kind of a commitment as an adult than it is when you're a kid.
Yeah.
And it's doable, but it's
more difficult when you have like all the grown-up things going on. I get it. It's so much easier to just do the thing. You know, I'm just going to go walk now, right? You don't need any.
Right.
Yeah. I kind of like, I need to get over that. That's probably a thing that I need to work on is like, I don't know where sometime in my childhood, I got sort of like turned off by like clubs and groups and things like that. It's like, I don't want to do that. Right. And I still have that. I'm like, every time I show up to a thing, I'm like, ugh. It's like this. It's like Boy Scouts all over again. I don't want to do that. This is not fun. Right. But it can be. It can, you know, some groups can be really fun. You know, I really like I said, you know, small groups and chatting and maybe getting drunk or not. That's really fun. Yeah. Okay. So, all right. So, what were you already said what you were like in high school. So the jock.
Yeah. So I did and I was good in school for a long time. I mean, honestly, I was good in school probably until the whole getting interested in boys thing started to overshadow.
That is like a huge fear for everybody, right?
Yeah.
It's like suddenly, for me, that was like going from 8th grade to 9th grade. I suddenly thought, oh my goodness, girls might be interesting, right? Up until then, it was like not, right? And now they are, right? It's like this switch flipped, right?
Yeah.
And I wanted to go get a haircut and clothes.
I used to always reinvent myself. And it was very distracting for me. Like I had a real hard time balancing out all the different nuances of the social hierarchies and having crushes and all of that became sort of tricky for me to manage. And my grades suffered from it. I was I mean, I was okay, but I was not.
You went
that
from like focused,
straight A.
Right. I think my whole high school, actually my whole school career, I had this sort of like, well, I can do, you know, very base level effort and get a B+ or an A-. That's good enough for me, right? I didn't have any sort of external academic pressure anywhere. I had friends that were smart. Does that make sense? And that meant I wanted to hang out with them. So that I think in 7th grade, we had this sort of like graduated, like, this is the smart kid for math group, right? And my two buddies were in it and I wasn't. So that made me want to get in there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And the teacher saw that and he was like, oh yeah, well, Jeff and Randy and Scott, they should all be in the same group. Even though Jeff doesn't really belong there, I'm going to put him back in there anyway. So that was nice. I didn't.
Right. By association, you kind of.
Yeah. And it thankfully it was towards the end of the year, so I didn't have to do a lot of the hard math.
You wanted to be there, but to not actually
I didn't really want to do the work. No, but I did it. I did it. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about what you did when you went to college. So you studied something other than psychology to begin with, right?
I kind of had a roundabout journey because I first thought I was going to be an architect, and then realized I wasn't going to do that, and then I transferred to a design school. Not really sure what I was going to do, but actually, I think I wanted to be in fashion. That's right. I wanted to be in fashion.
All right.
And then I went to Parsons School of Design in New York City, and they have this foundation year where you get a little bit of all the different things that they teach, so you can really get some clarity about what you want. And I switched gears again and decided, I want to be a graphic designer. So, which was such a different time because it was right on the cusp of when computers were just starting to come out right after I graduated. So my whole major would have been completely different had I been 4 years later. But so I did that. I became a graphic designer.
Okay.
I worked.
That's cool though, because you actually get a job when you finish.
That's right.
You have a trade like immediately,
Yeah.
You've got samples, you've done work, you probably did like interns and stuff, internships, right?
Did I have internships? It wasn't official through school, but over the summers I did get jobs in the design field.
See?
And I got hired at Food and Wine magazine.
Wow.
Right out of,
that's awesome.
Back in the day, I don't even know if it still exists.
Probably not.
I know magazines are really not what they were, but I did that right out of college and enjoyed that job for about 5 years or so. Yeah.
So about what time then did you sort of like, I think you said you were in your 20s, right? When you sort of like started wanting, let's get into that story. Like, what is the story that led you into therapy to begin with?
Yeah. So the story was that I was struggling to have a long-term love relationship. I really longed to have a long-term boyfriend. I wanted to get married someday. I wanted to have children. And I was only having these very short-lived relationships. And I was frustrated about that. I didn't understand what was in the way for me. And for a while, I did not think therapy was an option because I felt a lot of stigma, and I didn't feel like my problems were legit enough to be somebody pursuing therapy. So I just didn't really know what to do. And with a little time, I started to embrace that idea a little bit more, got some names, and decided to go to therapy. And I got connected to this wonderful therapist named Bonnie. And that was right away an amazing experience. I went in, she was interested in my story. I went into the situation thinking maybe there's something unlovable about me. I mean, that was my answer.
Yeah. That's almost like a universal. It's like, and I went through that too. It's like, there's something wrong with me. Right. Like, and it's like this, it's in permanent marker and it's not going to come out. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just a fact.
It's a fact that I am somehow broken. Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. So I went into that experience feeling a lot of shame, feeling a lot of worth issues. And, but when I went into from like even the first minute, just feeling held, like she was able to hold space for me and to let me tell my story. And I did not feel judged by her. I felt understood, seen. And that was incredibly healing from the first moments with her. And then very early on, she suggested that I add group therapy to the mix. And she did both. She worked with me individually, but also ran the group. And the thought of it really terrified me.
Of course.
I was not ready.
You're not in a bar, you're not drinking, and these aren't strangers.
That's right. Right. Although they were strangers at first. And so when I was thinking of going into a group situation, I was thinking of revealing sort of my innermost stuff to people I didn't know and didn't know if I would feel safe with and all of that. But I was starting to really build trust with my therapist, and she really thought it would be helpful. And I was kind of intrigued too. Like the thought of it was kind of interesting to me too, even though it scared me. So I decided to do it. And it was in, I think, the combination of being in this group therapy situation and then being able to process what came up for me, sometimes within the group and sometimes separately, just to learn from it and grow from it, that changed my life. It was mostly, I think, some of the messages that I got were. So, like I said, I went into the situation feeling very unlovable, feeling flawed, and then went into a situation where other people are sharing some of their own insecurities. And I can see them being amazing people. Like I admired them. I could see sort of like this full version of what they put out there, what they shared with us. And I could see that their insecurities were not real. Like, sure, they felt them, but like their worries of their own worthiness, I could see how worthy they were. So it helped me question my own insecurities.
Yeah. It's that mirroring sort of.
Yeah.
You see yourself in them, and then, right.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
And starting to realize that the things that I thought were flawed and unlovable about me were really just part of the human condition.
Right.
And it helped me start to connect to myself differently.
Right.
And as I was continuing through that journey and starting to learn about myself and grow, my life started to shift outside of group as well. Like I started to share a little bit more, take some more chances within group, but then outside of group, I was more genuine and real and present out there. Because in the past, I was so afraid of being seen as flawed. I was very busy curating how I was going to show up for other people.
Right.
So I was assessing everything that came out of my mouth. And
you're using all of your brain power.
That's right.
Right.
That's
to keep up this facade almost, right?
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
You're really working on your mask, right? This perfect.
Totally.
This perfect.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm awesome.
That's right.
And I have all my shit together.
That's right.
And that's exhausting.
It is.
It is. Yes.
Yeah.
Energetically hard. Yes.
And then people don't connect to me because I'm not even really there. So
right.
To be able to just trust that I can be, that I can unfold, that I can just say what does come for me, that I can take some more chances, impacted certainly the way that I showed up. But then I started to receive more, like people were gravitating towards me in a way they never had before. And I felt like people were interested in me in the way that they never had before.
Yeah.
And during this time, continuing to explore meeting potential partners, I did actually meet the person who became my husband very early on. So, I'm in this group situation, growing, evolving. I'm saying very early on. I'm not even sure how long into it. I can't quite remember.
It's been a while. It's been a while.
Yeah. And so he and I connected, and there were other people I was dating initially just to try and see. And my whole understanding too of me finding a partner shifted, because I went into the situation when I was struggling to meet somebody, hoping that they would like me and trying to curate the version of me that I thought would be the most likable.
Yeah.
And
right.
As that switched and I became much more genuine and present and confident, I was no longer wondering if they were, sure, of course I want them to like me if I like them, but the first question was, do I like them? Like, which wasn't even something that I explored a whole lot because I was so busy hoping they would like me.
Right. Like how can I be more pretty, or how can I be more whatever, insert whatever here. Right. And then, it's always that little formula of if only I did X, then they would love me forever, which is, right.
Yeah.
It's a complete shift.
Totally. And so showing up in this way of like, do I think this person might be a good fit for me? So anyway, during that time, I did meet the person who became my husband, and he and I just celebrated our 30th wedding anniversary.
Congratulations.
In September.
Way to
Thank
go.
You.
Yeah. My wife and I just hit 30 this year too.
Woo.
Whoa, 1993.
We were 92. September.
Okay. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Oh, congrats though. That's awesome.
Yeah. It is the best. Yeah. I have a story too. Well, no, that we went out and got stuck in traffic. That was our anniversary adventure.
Celebrating the anniversary.
Yeah. So my wife wanted the event to happen on the day, so she went and booked what is it? It was one of those new Cirque shows, on the Strip here in Vegas. It's called Mad Apple. It just turned out that neither one of us realized where New York was, and it happens to be right next to where the hockey game is. So it was a traffic nightmare, and we both hate traffic nightmares. But we're committed. We're in it. So we just had to smile, laugh, and try to get through it, and it was amazing. We were a little bit. It was the whole craziness. Getting to the show was better than the show.
Interesting. And even though that was not what you wanted, but I love that when it turns out being sort of a moment of connection or whatever it ends up being.
We parked in a place we'd never parked before, and then we ended up getting lost, and we were in the MGM Park employee area, and they were yelling at us to leave.
Oh my gosh.
Where do we go to get to the street? Don't care. Just get out of here the way you came. I know. It was awesome.
Oh my God.
And then we get back to where we started, and there's this big sign, no entry, employees only. I'm like, oh, okay. I guess that was my fault then.
Oh, wow.
Exactly. Yeah. Hilarious though, but what a great memory. Okay. So I had some questions because I watched that video on your webpage.
Yeah. Thank you.
So like you said kind of like glossy over. So if you don't want to share this, feel free not to. But so as soon as you sat down and you didn't want to talk, right? And a man in group said, I felt your neediness when you walked in the room, like right away. Now, so that's pretty like in your face and hard to hear. So how did you take that in that moment? Like, was that something that you were ready to hear, or did you put up a whole bunch of walls? What was that like?
Yeah. So that was actually the second group session. So the first one, the therapist did not introduce me. I felt it wasn't that I didn't want to speak, but I felt so shy, and I also thought she would introduce me. So I was shocked that she didn't introduce me.
Right.
And as the group, and they all knew each other because they had been in group together for a while. And the way
so you're the new person and you're the outsider, right?
Yeah. So that was the first one, and I didn't get into my story at all the first time. So then the second time, I get into my story. I am explaining to the group why I came to group. I'm being vulnerable. I'm sharing this part about
can't get into a long-term relationship.
That I wanted that, but I did not want to reveal the part that I worried maybe I was unlovable. That was something I didn't want to lead with that because I was new to group. That whole idea scared me because I really thought it was true still at that point.
Right.
So the one that you're referring to, yes, which is in the documentary on my website, which was this guy saying he could spot my neediness immediately. And that floored me because I thought I was hiding that. And when he said that, I felt mortified, really. And I had this urge to like get up and run out of the room because I was so uncomfortable
Sure.
that I thought, oh my God, I
got to get out of here. Yeah.
I got to get out of
here.
here.
You immediately wanted to escape.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
That's about what I would think I can relate. Yes. Your first, so like fight or flight.
That's right. That's right. And I didn't. I mean, maybe partly because the shame of getting up and leaving would have been too big also.
Right.
So I wouldn't have had the relief, maybe a momentary relief of getting out of there, but then I'd have to deal with the fact that I ran out of a room without talking about it, whatever. So I kind of sat with the discomfort and felt like his comment meant that he could see I was unlovable and that he was calling it out so everybody else in the group could now see that I was unlovable. And what it did for me is it brought it to such an honest place. Kind of before I was ready for it, but whatever. I was there.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
you're never ready. There's no gentle way to get that message.
Yeah. It's true. And I think to even be vulnerable, because I think I talk about my own, like many, many, many years later, still like when I'm vulnerable, like anybody, right? It's still hard.
It is.
It's vulnerable. So so that was a very difficult moment, but it was a pivotal moment because I think being able to survive that, to have that truth be talked about and realize it didn't make it true, right? Like the fact that he spotted my neediness. I mean, that part was true, but it didn't mean I was a bad person. It didn't mean I was unlovable.
Didn't mean you were permanently broken or anything other than human, basically.
Right. And I think it was that even to realize, being needy didn't mean I was terrible. It just meant that
or bad or it's your fault or blame or shame. Right.
And then starting to call it out within myself and in my own process and to really own, I do want a relationship and that's okay. Because I think I always felt like I kind of had to backhandedly sort of want this relationship, just sort of. I couldn't want it too much. If I wanted it too much, that would be too needy. So I think
interesting.
it's like it was part of my whole crafting to not appear needy. So anyway, that was just a very difficult moment, but it definitely, I think, led to some growth that led to my life changing. So,
right. That's awesome. Yeah. So like the first thing I thought was, ouch.
Yes.
Ouch. But like when I did massage school, right? So there was a rule in massage school was they had the feedback sandwich rule. So you have to say like, a good thing, a bad thing, a good thing, right? So you have to say, you're awesome, you're needy, you're awesome. Something like that.
Right. He didn't do that.
I know. I know. So I was like, ooh, ow, right in the nose. Ouch.
It's painful.
Right.
Yeah.
But, you don't, I would imagine you don't even at that moment, you didn't know that neediness in you was leaking out, right?
That's right.
Right. So that's just having that information is powerful. Yes. Obviously, in the moment, horrible, but you can take it and, do with it what you will. But, at least now you have something to talk about.
Yeah. I mean, I think like I did not realize that was visible. I did not realize that was leaking out. And so him calling it helped me tolerate that the hiding or maybe not tolerate even, just know that the hiding it wasn't even working. Right. So what's the point of doing it anyway?
Yeah, all of that effort, right? And all of that energy that you're putting into the mask isn't working.
That's right.
That's right.
Yeah.
That is a wake-up call. So whether you're needy or not, whether you take that or not, at least you can go, well, at least I don't have to do that anymore. Yeah. That's a bit of a relief, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Whether or not whether or not that turns out to be true, I don't know. Did you decide maybe you were being needy? Doesn't really matter. It gives you something to work on. Right.
Yeah.
And then you can get a little bit deeper in your own, self-talk and
That's right.
more therapy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I think it led to me not seeing that as such I didn't pathologize it anymore.
Right.
Like,
Right. Yes. Which that we could go on forever. That is another show. But we all do that, right?
Yeah.
It's like these permanent markers things that you just like. One of my favorite lines ever, right, is from The Matrix, right? Remember that when the Agent Smith had Neo in the interrogation scene?
I did not watch that movie.
You've never seen? Okay. So there you go. It's not your thing.
I heard the line.
Yeah.
Anyway,
No. It's just like, he's like, now we've got you, right? The agents have got you. And Neo, and they're in the Matrix. This is before he wakes up in the vat of goo. So Neo hasn't had his wake up moment yet, right? So he's still in the Matrix. He still thinks everything is real in this game that they're in, really.
Yeah.
And the agent has just caught him, right? And they're interrogating him, and they've got this big thick file, right? And it's like, you've been like working very hard, in this agent voice, right? And he's like, we're willing to wipe the slate clean. If you just tell on your contact, right, who is the other character, right? And of course, Neo has his moment of flipping him off, and the movie goes on and it gets crazy. But that whole that we're willing to wipe the slate clean. Yeah. Everybody wants that, right?
Yeah.
Everybody wants to wipe the slate clean. We really can't wipe the slate clean, can we?
No, we cannot.
Because we're always human, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it always becomes a part of, I'm just thinking of the nervous system is sort of like the version of wiping the slate clean, this idea of like, can't I just be okay with everything? But it's like, our nervous system incorporates every experience we've ever had.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And you're always going to wake up and still be human. And you're going to have. Right. Yeah. Well, So, okay. Before we get too deep into the Matrix here.
Yes.
Let's stay on track because there's things I want to get to. So let's see here. Let's talk about finding meaning in your life. And if that, like, how did that become like, because I think we all struggle with this. Right. Mm-hmm. And, putting a nice little fine point on it seems like counterproductive to me. I think if you believe in God or a higher power, that's what gives my life meaning. Even if I don't necessarily know what my job is, it's almost like waking up and doing my best. It's never going to be perfect. Yeah. But like, I want to do my best. And that being me is sort of like what God wants me to do, if that makes any sort of sense.
Yeah.
Right.
Like,
and be more me, be more authentic and try to always be better a little bit that day as much as I can. Yeah. So what is it? What does it look like for you?
For me, it is trusting something very similar, like about what's inside of me matters and to keep connecting to that and learning from that. What's coming up for me? What are you feeling
in your body? Right.
Yeah. What are you feeling? What am I feeling in my body? What has resonance for me?
Okay.
What sparks a little bit of fun? What, just where am I? Always checking back. Like, how's that landing for you? What's working for you? Does that work for you? And I think what happens to so many of us is that there are certain limiting beliefs that we all incorporate from whatever families we grew up in. And certainly our cultures have certain messaging that we celebrate in our culture. For me, being productive was a big message that I got that.
Oh, right.
And also don't rock the boat and people-pleasing tendencies.
Yes.
So those people-pleasing tendencies and this idea of being productive at all times, those messages guided me for a while where I was getting depleted because I was so focused on being productive that I was not really paying attention to
energy levels,
need for rest and energy levels and all of
self-care.
that.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And also people pleasing, where I'm finding myself being accommodating to other people or making plans because they matter to other people without checking in with myself about what mattered.
Right.
And then as I know for myself and other people that I help do this for their lives is starting to realize, oh, wait a minute, what do you want? And the group experience that I had really helped me start to ask those questions.
Right.
What do you want? What's coming up for you? And learning from those just reactions to things and then incorporating that information as I make choices moving forward. So things like recognizing, oh, wait a minute, I have this idea that I have to scramble so much that I'm not happy. I'm not enjoying the journey. I need to rest. I need to slow down. I need to connect to other things and not just work related or productivity related things, for example.
Right. Yeah.
And
nobody has on their gravestone, like, I wish I would have worked more. Right.
Yeah. Right.
Nobody, it's like, it's not that's not what it's about. Like, can I write 10 more books before I die? You probably could.
Yeah. Right.
But is that necessary? Is this trip really necessary? Right.
Yeah.
I mean, you can get so much more done too. I think I had a couple comments because I was chronically people pleasing, probably still do. I think that's one of those things that you just have to keep checking in on all the time.
That's right.
But being more honest and being more authentic, right, with everybody as much as you can, that is like, it's transformational in and of itself. Like when you start doing that, it's like this, you become instantly rejecting. You're like shutting off, just cutting off like a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people just, oh, okay, that guy's just saying what he thinks. They turn around and go the other way, right? Immediately. And it also attracts the people that you actually are doing the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Oh, this guy is being real.
Yeah.
He's being authentic. He doesn't even want any of my money. Wow.
And what I would say about that is often it's a journey to get to that place.
Totally.
Where you even know what it means to be authentic. You even know what you want to say yes to or what you want to say no to. Sometimes we're on such automatic pilot, sort of moving forward, and then depleted from that experience that we're not connected to our intuition. We're not connected to what brings us meaning. We don't know. And so it's the first recognizing where we're getting depleted and quieting that down, and then learning how to connect to ourselves a little bit so that we can learn about what we do
what do you want
and what we don't want. And then being able to start being more honest about either saying the yeses, saying the nos, setting boundaries.
Right. Yeah, I learned all about like a lot of this stuff, again, when I was doing like massage school, which is weird. Like I thought I would learn about it in like doing the bachelor's degree in psychology. Not so much. But like in massage school, you're doing a lot of that tuning into your body and and it's not even like the therapy version. It's just like learning about like, oh, okay, these emotions have like a felt sense in your body, right? And knowing, oh, there's pain there. What does that mean? Right? Yeah. And then, what was it? I heard this on another podcast, learning what a full body yes feels like. Right? Like, so like most of the knowledge that you need is in your body, right? Is like when you feel turned on, lit up by whatever, like an idea or like a little like piece of art or whatever it is, right? And you feel like, that's a whole body. Yes, I need to move towards that. Totally.
Yeah. And I think also we can get dysregulated,
Totally.
So if we are not paying attention to what we need, our energy levels, replenishing ourselves, setting boundaries that we need to keep ourselves safe, and I don't necessarily mean in the ultimate safety, but of course that's a top priority, but even like not exposing ourselves to toxic energy of people that we allow into our lives and maybe making different choices about that. So knowing that what can be dysregulating for us, and what do we need to regulate ourselves? Because all of the things like a full body, yes, again, we don't have access to it if we're dysregulated. We're not able to process things in a way that honors ourselves at all, because we're in a different state. So to know that stuff. Yeah.
Let's talk about the being good or doing what we should be doing versus like the boundaries and the needs, wants, energy levels. Because I think we all get stuck there in the shoulds.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I think that goes back to the whole people pleasing thing.
Right.
And not to overly gender it too, but I think there is something about being a good girl or being sort of an ideal mother that might be a little bit more pronounced for women.
Totally.
Possibly.
No, for real. Yeah. I think you're right. The traditional like roles for women are a lot more, I don't know, how would you say it? Like there's more baggage, right? Like if you're not doing the role like the book says or something. I don't even know, right? There's no book, but everybody knows what a good girl is supposed to be, right? That's what I mean.
Yeah. I think there's been value placed on that for women and girls and women. If you're good, if you're accommodating, if you follow the rules, if you're obedient, if you're those kind of things, then okay, then you're showing up in the way our culture is sort of supporting. And I'm saying our culture, but of course there's lots of different cultures that have similar messages about that for girls and women.
Right.
And I know that men and other genders have their own set of pressures that maybe are a little bit different, but still have some complicated expectations. So I think I work with men and women, but I mostly with women. And I think this whole good girl syndrome, or trying to be sort of this amazing mother, how does she do it all? Like that is the kind of thing. The biggest compliment that we have given women or mothers over the years has been, oh, she's so selfless.
Right.
What a horrible compliment.
I know. It is. Yeah. You're right. You're right.
And we still get caught in it. There still is this idea of like, she's amazing. She does it all.
Right.
That's such a huge
it's
part
exhausting.
of what it totally is exhausting and depleting.
Just thinking about it makes me want to take a nap.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
And so what I do a lot of is helping people to catch their own messaging, because we all have our own versions from the families that we grew up in, or other experiences that we've had, or the cultures that we grew up in, and then help people identify what was messaging that has nothing to do with each person. And then what do you see as true? What do you believe in? That kind of thing. And helping them catch it. This stuff is really entrenched.
It is.
And so it's very easy to intellectually get it all, right? Like I get it all. But then emotionally, as you're living through your life, still struggle to not follow through with the things that get like celebrated in our culture, and to interrupt some of that automatic pilot going towards taking care of everybody. Aren't you amazing?
Yeah. The thing about like the women roles, the traditional female roles for women and girls is when you really look at them, they're impossible.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
They are. I mean, okay. Yeah. Now you have to go work. Now you have to have an amazing career. You have to look amazing all the time, right?
Yes.
You can never be tired. What else do you have to do? You have to be a wonderful mother, right? Yes. Your kids have to go to the best schools. They're just
fresh baked goodies.
Yes, right. You have to be a domestic goddess, obviously. Right? And if there were 8 of you, you couldn't get it done. Right? It's just impossible.
Right. And yet I still am impressed when somebody does it, So it's
but you kind of see through it though, right? Like,
sure, of course. But I'm just saying, like,
yes, you are right. I get right.
People do it. There is that moment of like, wow, that's amazing. That's delicious. You made that, or Angie went off to work. How did you like? There is that. Like
you're still impressed, right?
Yeah,
right.
And then it's
how are they doing it? But there has to be something behind that, right?
Of course. And then with my clients, so it's like I get the inside view with my clients.
Right.
sort of where they're like feeling overwhelmed, where they're depleted, where they're disconnecting from themselves. And that's usually that's the cost, right? That is what happens then if people are not able to say no to certain things and pay attention to their energy levels and their needs and sort of what they want to be doing, then they're giving their lives over to this whole sort of other way. So
totally.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love the way you talk. I just have to say that. Like watching the group, right?
Yeah.
You've got this sort of like, I don't know what I was saying, like this very calm, like great cadence. Maybe that just comes through like the doing your work, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah,
but
maybe, but thank you.
Yeah, it's just like I just wanted more. So let's talk about, let's see here. I've got a couple more things because we're getting close to the end of the show, right?
Yeah.
All right. We got about maybe, do you have more time to keep going?
I do. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, good. So let's talk about the importance of discomfort and vulnerability. Oh gosh.
Yeah,
my goodness, that's loaded. Wow, I just read that and I was like, oh my goodness, that's huge.
I mean, it kind of goes back to that story that I shared about that guy, right?
Yes.
About tolerating. So, I mean, that was an extreme version. You don't always get that kind of
That
feedback,
is a smack in the nose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think to share some of the stuff that we're afraid to share is where transformation lies, because those are the places that we haven't strengthened those muscles yet. We haven't let those parts of ourselves out so much. And that's why it's so uncomfortable. But as we start to do that, then it doesn't have the same, I'm trying to think of like shame, for example, right? And Brene Brown is, so famous about talking about shame and vulnerability.
Right.
And I think this idea that shame lives in secrecy, so that as you kind of bring some things out to the light and let it be out there, it doesn't carry the same weight. It doesn't take over and run the show in the way it does when you're trying to like hide it and hold it and that kind of thing. So in my work with other people and watching and being a part of people's transformation, which is an incredible honor to be able to be on that kind of journey with people and to see them take a little bit more risk, whether it's with me or in a group situation. I do both groups and then retreats in person and virtual groups, but in every one of those settings, when somebody starts to say something that they feel afraid to say, and or that they haven't said before, or that they haven't even recognized before, and they're starting to put it out there, sometimes I'll say it out loud too. Like, we can celebrate that because there is such courage in doing that. And I know that those are the things that are going to start to lead towards transformation. Those are like the little quiet things that I think people don't even want to look at because there's some fear there.
If anyone else knows this, then they'll know I am thoroughly forever a piece of shit.
Yes. So there's that part, right? So that's part. And then there's the other part of like, if somebody knows that I'm dreaming or longing for this thing, maybe they're going to think, who does she think she is? She's never going to get there. That's a ridiculous dream. She doesn't have that kind of talent or worth or, whatever it is. All that stuff can feel so we're putting ourselves at risk for judgment or somebody to
cancel you nowadays.
Yes, totally that. Yeah.
I just went through this. So this is like huge, like for group, right? So like when you hear another person say the thing that is your deepest shame, and then they say it publicly, not just in group, but like on a podcast, right?
Yeah.
Some guy, I don't remember who this dude is. I don't know him at all, but he was on Tim Ferriss's podcast. He wrote this whole book about how he was a sex addict. So that, talk about therapy.
Yeah.
So that his little thing his share was like, oh my God, that was my deepest shame. Right? That I never thought I could ever tell anybody. He wrote a book about it and then went on a podcast. I was like, okay, maybe I'm not so bad.
Right. Totally that. Yeah.
Right.
And I know it was saying like, even now, even though I've done this work for almost 3 decades, that still being vulnerable is hard for me, even though I get it.
Yeah. It never gets better.
Vulnerable,
you're still human every day. Yes.
Yeah.
And but it's so valuable. Just,
Totally. And I went to a retreat in September in Italy with this amazing person named Jennifer Pasteloff. And she does this beautiful job of helping people feel safe to share certain things. And I know I shared things that I felt vulnerable sharing, but then of course the outcome, I'm saying of course, maybe it's not of course, but that people felt then permission to say similar things, to go similar places. And people would come up to me and share how much what I shared resonated for them. And it wasn't just me. I mean, we were all doing it, but it's like the power of
once you're in that group.
Space.
Once you're in the group and you're going to be, it's going to be hard, but everybody's doing it, right? This is the thing now, right? It's like, it's suddenly you do feel that permission. I think that's huge. That is huge. So huge. It's like that just, I mean, I've never had such a transformational moment than listening to that podcast. I was like, okay, now I can probably say that. That happened to me too. Yes. I did that. That's okay because he said it already on a podcast. And not only did that, he wrote a book about it. I was like, oh my God. Not only did I not want to tell myself, I didn't want to tell another living human being, but now it's out there for him, right?
Yep.
And it must be okay to be human, right?
Well, and that's why I'm so grateful to people like you who are doing podcasts like this, where there is this human conversation about human things that I think is changing the sort of landscape of our world. So there's more of that, and people can feel safer about talking about some of these things that, like I had done, people might want to hide.
Totally. Well, we all have something to hide. I think that's a universal about, like, have you ever dealt with people like coming out of recovery, right? The recovery people?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So
you mean coming out of recovery, meaning
either in it or, sort of like,
yes,
in the early stages.
Anyway.
Yes. So part of like doing the recovery, I've noticed, is they kind of try to strip away your filters. Right? So when you're in your recovery meetings, you're sharing a lot. Right? And the people get to this point where they don't have filters anymore. Right? It's like they're doing that all the time to everybody. It's like, whoa. That can
be too much.
It can be too much. Right. You're TMIing people. It's like, whoa, I'm just trying to cross the street and buy some Starbucks and you're giving me a lot here.
Yeah.
But I think there's value in being there anyway. I think you just have to put some filters back on, maybe just a little bit.
I mean, and I think we all need to find our way, right? Like for some people, it's going to be, I've become like a little too vulnerable all over the place. And that's not serving
You're bombing
me.
people.
So, and just realizing
boundaries.
That's not working for me.
Right.
And making an adjustment. Some people maybe don't care. And then have at it. Like it's up to each of us to decide what works for us and what doesn't work for us, regardless of whether it works for the other person. It's on the other person then to set whatever boundary they need to set.
Feel free to walk away if this person's oversharing.
That's right. That's right.
That's great. So, okay. I like that thing about that there's nothing wrong with us, that this is just part of the human condition. I know that's what we've been talking about. Yeah. But like, I think we all go through this, that we're like just thoroughly broken. And then coming to that conclusion that this is just, like I said, there's another PhD lady, blanking on her name, Loretta Bruning, right? And she was like so eye-opening for me, like life-changing, just because she just says we're all human and humans all do this, right? It's like, it's not just you, Jeff. Everybody's human too.
That's right. Right. Yeah. But then it makes it so we don't have to personalize it anymore.
Correct.
Because I think that's the thing, right? Is when we were thinking, oh, what's the matter with me? Why am I behaving in such a way? And then we learn, oh, everybody else seems to have either maybe not the same, because there are differences, but there are human reactions that everybody experiences a sense of overwhelm at times. Everybody has a sense of feeling unworthy or rejected and sort of struggling through some of that. We all have a tendency to make up narratives about why certain things are happening. And so if we can let go of some of those narratives, right, and not make us be wrong and flawed, and that's the reason these things are happening, and see the bigger picture about, we are animals and we have, like different.
We have energetic needs, we have emotional needs. Yes. Right.
Yeah. So, and that's I would say probably that's the most healing thing about group, and probably why I love group so much, is being able to create an environment and container for people where they can have that
space.
That's right, where they can have that experience. It's nothing warms my heart more than seeing those relationships form and have the people support each other, celebrate each other, give each other sort of feedback and connect to each other and show each other they're not alone, that they can really relate to each other.
Yeah. No one has a clean slate, but you can keep cleaning your slate, I think.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. I like that. Okay. So this has been awesome. And you're awesome. We should probably start wrapping up the show. We're getting close to an hour. But I could go on forever because you're amazing.
Thank you. This has been great for me as well.
Right. I think the organicness of the story that we said in the beginning before we started recording, that worked out.
Yeah. Good.
So thank you. Yeah. Thank you for being you. And thank you for showing up and sharing. And wow, just having this conversation is lighting me up. So there's something about you.
Well, thank you. And you as well. Thank you for doing this and having me here.
So talk a little bit about how people can best get in touch with Tanya Cole-Lesnick.
Yes. Yeah. Probably the easiest way for people to connect is to come to my website, which is Clear Energetic
Clutter.
Sorry, I had a brain moment there. Yes. Clear Energetic Clutter.com.
Gotcha.
Would be the easiest way just to remember what my website is. And I have the documentary that you and I touched on that. So if anybody's into learning about that story, I feel very proud of that and love to share that with people.
It was great.
Thank you. Yeah.
I didn't finish. I want to finish now.
Yeah.
I was like, it sort of got sucked in. I was like, oh my goodness, I could. Yeah. Really good. So well done.
Thank you.
So thank you so much.
And then other ways to connect on my website.
Right. Yeah. I know you're on at least Instagram. You're probably on all the socials, as everyone has to be, or as many as you can handle.
I'm on Instagram and TikTok mostly.
Okay.
A tiny bit of Facebook, but
I'm kind of antisocial now when it comes to social.
Yeah.
It's just got a really icky vibe these days, especially Twitter.
It's a lot.
It's just
it's a
lot. It's
Yeah.
almost like I can't handle it. It's like I'll put stuff out, but don't expect a response ever because I just can't look at it. Facebook especially. There's something about that algorithm that is just not good for my brain. It's
I hear you.
Yeah. Anyway, so thank you so much for hanging out with me and being open and making groups seem like, yes, it's going to be work, But on the sides of the work, you're going to have fun if you're hanging out with Tanya.
Yeah. I mean, I think it scares the hell out of people.
Totally.
But it's so worth it.
Yeah.
I don't think people realize what they will get from it if they give it a chance.
Yeah, and I think we said that. In the once you go through the hard stuff, it's easier to enjoy just the simple pleasures of, letting that go.
Yeah. And the connections, the genuine connections that form.
You're never going to get, a closer friend than someone in a group, like a retreat. Right.
Yeah.
Those will be lifelong bonds. So thank you for doing that work. Amazing.
Thank you. Oh, thank you for saying that. And thank you so much for having me here with you.
All right. You have a good one. Talk to you soon.
Okay.
Thanks for taking the time to ride along with us on another episode of Vroom Vroom Veer. For podcast info and show notes, be sure to head over to vvveer.com. That's VVER.com. Man, that's fun to say. And we'll catch up with you next time here on Vroom Vroom Veer.